Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at some of these coins. We're just going to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, Bitcoin dominance in the Dixie, because this afternoon, well not this afternoon, this evening I will be doing a live stream for Patreon users. So if you're not a Patreon user already, £7.50 a month, 2 live streams a week, every week, for about 2 hours, and I'll go through as many questions as I can get through in that 2-hour period. And we usually look at dozens of different tokens. Right, so conflicting at the moment, definitely conflicting. I still believe that the shorter term time frame offers more to the downside than it will do to the up when it comes to Bitcoin. All right, some interesting developments I'd say coming along with the way that Bitcoin and altcoins are shaping up together. So even though I'm technically, and this is going to sound strange and almost contradictory, even though I'm technically bearish in the short term on Bitcoin, just on the short term on Bitcoin, I'm actually pretty bullish on some of these altcoins at the moment still, despite what's been going on. So let's have a little look at what the situation is here. So the first bearish thing that I've got to say about Bitcoin is that we're below the centre of the Bollinger Band. I say it, ever since we've gone down below it, and we're getting rejected from it. So until we break above there, the odds are against us for going to the all-time high. So that's one thing. That's only a 65% more likely a chance of staying below that centre. So it's not a massive thing. The second thing is, since we had this conversion baseline cross here, we started an uptrend, and now we have a negative cross here, which means that uptrend already is finished. The last time we had one of these is we had an uptrend starting all the way from down here, and it continued all the way up to here. So this one has ended quite quickly, and I have a theory, which is that this uptrend, even though it was going to happen since that cross was created, there was a little bit of a pumpy stuff going on, with Elon Musk and stuff. Oh, it's a good lad. I've said it before. We like Elon Musk, right? If he wants to tweet about Bitcoin, that's fine. But what it seems to have done is basically it's allowed for this chart to blow its load too soon. This uptrend probably, in my opinion, could have been sustained a lot longer than it was. If it wasn't for that. So basically, the cross happened. Yay, we're doing well. Elon Musk, massive pump. Retail, FOMO, and then collapse, and then now what's happening now is we're breaking down again. So it's not the end of the world. Literally, it's not the end of the world. And I made a video yesterday about how traditional markets are looking bearish, which they are. They are definitely looking bearish. You look at gold, you look at stocks, it's all quite bearish. But again, what I did say in that video yesterday, and it is true, is that even though we are standing on the edge of a potential economic disaster, there is one last stimulus package to be produced, right? And it's going to be pushed through, I think, this weekend, maybe even today. And that will allow for this party to continue just for a little bit longer, until perhaps that collapse takes place. Now, one thing I showed on that video as well is how well Bitcoin has held up in comparison to Nasdaq and gold, for instance, they've been selling off massively. We look at Bitcoin here. Obviously, we've not closed this week yet, but we've had one red candle, as a big one, on the weekly, whereas Nasdaq has had 3 in a row. Gold has been basically in a downtrend for 4 months or more. I don't trade gold anymore, but it's been going down for a long time. It looks like a failed cycle, actually. It should have bounced already. It hasn't actually bounced. So in that respect, Bitcoin is holding up really well, considering the turmoil that's taking place in traditional markets. Now, a lot of that could just be and to be honest, I'm not going to go into theories. Let's stick to charts. So right, so given the way that this chart is postured at the moment, would suggest that we will probably come down to test this lower region around about 43,600 at some point relatively soon, in my opinion, unless of course we break above this zone here. Now, if we look really closely at where we are, and we have to zoom in because a lot of these moving averages are very close to each other, which, to be honest with you, doesn't give me a great deal of insight into exactly where it's going in the short term. Because when we have moving averages all basically merging into one place, it basically takes a lot of the edge away. We can look at lower term timeframes, which we'll do in a minute, but basically look what's happening here. If I use moving averages as a way to, they're supports and resistances primarily. They're also showing you the strength and direction of a trend. So what we see now is the trend here is curling over, and it looks like it wants to form a downtrend, but at the moment they're all tangled up in a massive mess. And almost becoming irrelevant. So if we have a look here, we've clearly been sort of, I suppose, rejected and held below the centre of the Bollinger Band, which is the most important one in my opinion. In a situation like this, the most important one is this big pink one here. Being below there is technically bearish, being above there is technically bullish. And we also have this skinny little grey one here. That's the 21 EMA. Which we're technically above, which means that there is a glimmer of hope here that, being supported above there and obviously rejected below there. This is technically our trading range in the short term, giving us an area of about 4%, more or less about 4%. Now this isn't facing down yet. This is still, it's pretty horizontal, but it's not facing down, so it's not overly bearish in its posturing, which means that even though this is a resistance zone, it's not going to essentially at this moment in time. It's not offering us lower highs every time we get rejected from it. Technically, it could still, because it looks as though you have to zoom really close. It's not exactly horizontal at the moment, but it's getting there. You could argue that this is still facing up to the smallest, tiniest extent. So that's okay. Once this and if this starts to bend down, then obviously rejections from there will form lower highs, and with lower highs essentially is effectively a downtrend. We could already say that this is a downtrend already, but at the moment I wouldn't call it a downtrend. This is at the moment a breakdown, and maybe even just a further consolidation, a sell-off, a redistribution. And so what we'll look at now is let's have a look at these moving at these oscillators down here. So the money flow index is showing us that the volume and money is leaving the asset at the moment, okay, and the MACD isn't particularly bearish either. I mean, it's not great, but this looks to me that it's slow and steady with it's not crashing into the 0 point. It looks like a redistribution style MACD. So a peak here, cross, and a slow descent down. And if we have a look at the RSI, it kind of bottomed a little bit here, and it could pick up from that level here. So essentially showing us this bottom zone here, this wick here, could offer us, that could be the low point. And this is why it's not this is why it's not essentially and effectively a downtrend or a bear market at this moment in time, because this is the lowest that Bitcoin has gone since this breakdown. And since that breakdown and since that low point there of 43,000, it did bounce 22.5%. So it's not a downtrend, it's not a bear market yet. The bear market will begin if we start to form lower lows and lower highs, and all these moving averages start to diverge against each other. At the moment, it's not like that. It's not like that yet. So when I'm talking about the redistribution, we can bring ourselves over to this chart here. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. We'll look at Ethereum in a moment. So the Bitcoin dominance chart is a key indicator of if there is redistribution. And at the moment, it appears that there has been plenty of redistribution. So what I mean by that is money leaving the market cap of Bitcoin going into altcoins across the board. Not all of them obviously, but generally speaking, most of them have been receiving Bitcoin's wealth, which has created this huge downtrend. In fact, this has been a really good alt season, as you can see. I get the odd message from people who I don't know what their problem is, saying, "Where's the alt season?" Well, the alt season has begun. We have basically effectively more or less completed an alt season, and we may be going into an overdrive alt season shortly if we break down from this point. I don't know what's wrong with some people on YouTube. I really don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know what they look at. I don't know if they watch the videos. I don't know if they even look at charts or even the prices of coins. Yeah, I've had that a few times, and I thought you said there was going to be an alt season. I mean, this is proof that there has already been a significant alt season. When was the last time we saw a retracement of the Bitcoin dominance of this size? A 19% drop in Bitcoin dominance in such a small space of time. When was the last time we saw something like that? I can't say we have seen anything like that since, obviously the massive bull run in 2017 into 18. So I really don't know what's wrong with people. But again, that's besides the point. We have had a dramatic alt season, and those who watch the channel, most of us, as I was saying at the time, we're hedging into altcoins around about these zones, and this is why these zones are marked out, because we were hedging into alts at this point, and we've been slowly sort of considering hedging into Bitcoin since coming down to here. We hedged in here, we hedged in here, but now it's getting to the point where it's you know, the way that supports and resistances often work, obviously it's not always the case. The more times you test a support, the more likely it is you're going to break down from it. If you don't get a decent bounce from a support 1, 2, 3, 4 times, you know, and so on, the chances are you will break down from it, same as you will do with resistance. If you keep testing resistance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chances are, you know, you will break out from it, just because, you know, they're not proving to be resistance. You know, they're keeping price down from it, but they're not knocking you down, are they? And you keep coming back up to it. So and I've kind of always felt this way since looking at this chart, especially since getting the death cross here, that altcoins are going to go into a further bull market really against Bitcoin here. So if we are looking at a redistribution, which is kind of what the chart looks like on some of these oscillators, that's a kind of a redistribution vibe. Let's have a look at how it looked last time. So this is the last alt season. You know, when it happened, we had a cross here and a steady away decline before a cross back up. We had a cross up here and a steady away decline, and then inevitably we'll get a cross back up at some point. Looks like a redistribution style MACD. In fact, these signatures kind of look relatively similar, and some of these altcoins, I'd say the lower cap altcoins especially, are definitely feeling some of that redistribution at the moment. I mean, some of the tokens that we trade on my Telegram that we like anyway, like FET and some of these IEO coins, I mean, you can't deny that some of these altcoins are still rallying, and despite what's going on with Bitcoin, I mean, there's plenty of upside to be had in altcoins, despite the overall fear and anxiety that Bitcoin's going to continue to go down. So speaking of that, like I say, I do believe that this will break down sooner rather than later. Whether this ends up in a giant bull run for altcoins, or I don't know, that's generally what it would mean. But we've not broken down from it yet, and until we do, it's just speculation. And again, you know, the idea really would be to hedge into Bitcoin every time you come down to this support, but you know, it worked for us many times. It's not looking like it wants to work anymore. These bounces are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, plus the chart overall is pretty bearish. And like I say, every time you touch a support, the more times you come down to revisit that support, the more likely it is that you'll break down from it. So if we do break down from it, I'm not sort of looking for a sizable retracement, or a sizable dump, but a further 4% down in Bitcoin dominance as a minimum, as an absolute minimum, would be what I'd expect, down to that 58% dominant, maybe even 57% dominant thereabouts. That doesn't sound like much on a cryptocurrency chart, but when we're talking about market cap, if that's leaving Bitcoin going into altcoins, especially with some of these smaller cap coins, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. Anyway, let's have a look at Ethereum. So this is the top cap. This is the big daddy of altcoins, obviously, when it comes to market cap, and it's not a particularly bullish chart at all. In fact, it's worse than Bitcoin. But what I would say is that some of these wicks have clearly liquidated a lot of people, and if we're looking at the oscillators here, it does look like it's gearing up for a recovery. And if this MACD crosses up over to the 0 point with any kind of conviction, we've got this histogram turning up quite quickly now here, especially with this wick here and this wick here, bringing the RSI on the daily down, right down into the oversold zone. It's been there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost a whole week in the oversold zone, and it's probably allowed for a great deal of reaccumulation down at that level relatively fast. And so even if the chart looks bearish here, which it is technically, you know, as far as the chart's posture is concerned, and the way that the moving averages are all displayed, plus we've got a negative cross on Ichimoku cloud here, and rejections here, even on the, you know, worse than Bitcoin, and rejections on the 21 EMA. There does look like there has been some knife catching down at these levels, and now that knife catching is well, I suppose pushing the price up. So there's no signal here particularly. There's no signal as in like an uptrend is going to begin, but it could be the start of maybe a a bigger move that suddenly just blows us out of the up into the upper band, which would only take, if it were today, 5.5%, 6% from where we are today. And then once you've broken and broached that zone, all you need to do is find support really above it, and then obviously these moving averages need to cross above it. So we're talking about early days, and there's no signal, like I say, there's no signals. There's clues to suggest that people have been buying these dips at large levels, and to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons RSIs exist. And we have a look at the RSI. We haven't been this oversold in a very, very, very long time. The last time we came down here was down at this zone here, all the way down when we were down at 300. So it would make sense that if people are trading it off on the back of RSI, and I suppose people just selling off their Ethereum like, it's too much for me, I can't take it anymore. Then there are other people who look at it and go, well, actually, I think you've sold a little bit too much there, mate. One thing I was also going to show actually was Ethereum to Bitcoin. I showed this on the channel the other week actually, on the weekly. So I said, look, on the weekly here, it does very much look like, and this is, I made this when I saw it last week. I said, look, it looks very much to me like if there is a hedge against Bitcoin right now with any kind of altcoin, it would be with Ethereum at this point. We've got this uptrend here on a weekly, starting from basically a year ago. Over a year ago, we had a move up and a test, a move up and a test, massive move up and a test and a test and then a breakdown and a recovery and move up and down to a test. Right? Let's have a look at how this was formed. So we got this decent bounce here. This is a weekly chart, by the way. And again, when the weekly, a weekly is a weekly. Don't expect anything immediately. I'm not asking anybody to listen to what I say and put it into practice anyway. But if anyone was watching this and going, oh, that looks good, it's not. This is no place for leverage, especially when we think that Bitcoin is going to follow traditional markets in essentially a downtrend over the next few weeks into months, perhaps, which it might do. Right? It might do. This looks like a good chart to trade on several bases. The fact is, we've had this uptrend that's basically shown us that it's relatively well respected on over a year. So it's been going on for over a year, about 14-15 months, and with only a couple of weeks breakdown from it, and then a really strong recovery. So that in itself is pretty good. Also, we have this conversion baseline cross. It's not perfect, it's pretty nasty in fact, but 2 out of 3 confirmations. What I mean by that is when you get one of these upticks here, this conversion over this blue over this red, it's basically the conversion baseline on the Ichimoku cloud, and we're above the cloud. What we'd then look for would be, is this price action here 26 periods behind? So let's just say we got the tick here 26 periods behind. No, it's not. We've got the price action is inside. This Chiku span is inside the price action. So that gives you 2 out of 3 confirmations that this is going to start an uptrend. But that, alongside this general uptrend that's formed against Bitcoin pairing, does that make up for the lack of it? No, it doesn't make up for it, because you want to have a perfect signature with an Ichimoku cloud. That way you can get an entry point and an exit point. But what we've got here is, although a little messy and unclear, we've still got 2 out of 3 confirmations when it comes to that uptrend continuing on a weekly time frame, right? So don't go 100x in it just because you've seen this video. Go, oh, the bottom's in. No, because this is against Bitcoin. Both Ethereum and Bitcoin could both go down in value significantly and still remain in an uptrend as far as this chart's concerned. So let's not go crazy now. But it does look relatively strong and constructive, and that again will lend itself to the way that this Bitcoin dominance chart is playing out. If this continues to remain in this uptrend and behave the way that it's behaved in the past, then it will bring this Bitcoin dominance chart down to the next level, which should bring us down to 58 to 57 over time, because Ethereum is going to lead the pack. If we have a strong and healthy Ethereum, at least against Bitcoin, it has to, and it does, because the whole point of it is that it's stronger than Bitcoin. It'll be taking that market cap out, it'll be bleeding it slowly and surely, and then once that gets going, then obviously more money goes into alts, because people will catch on, and basically let's just sell some of this Bitcoin, let's go into altcoins. stack some sats, as they like to call it. So that, I mean, there's every opportunity here, in my opinion, that there is a rotation still underway. It's just not at breaking point yet. So yeah, I'll leave it with you there. But it's a long video. I'm sorry about that. If you made it to the end, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't made it to the end, you won't be able to leave it into the comments. So a lack of comments about people leaving it to the end would suggest that I've basically overdone it with this video. But I hope you have a nice day. I'd love to see you on the Patreon channel and the live stream tonight, 8:30 Greenwich Mean Time. Take it easy. Thanks for watching.